Northern California, late 1960s. Lovers' lanes, dark highways, and quiet neighborhoods became the hunting grounds of a man who called himself the Zodiac. He wasn't just a killer. He was a showman of terror, sending taunting letters, cryptic ciphers, and promises of more bloodshed to newspapers across the state. To this day, his identity remains one of America's greatest unsolved mysteries. Was he a single man, or a phantom persona used by many? And why did he seem more obsessed with attention than with killing itself? Tonight, we dive deep into the twisted world of the Zodiac Killer, the murders, the puzzles, the suspects, and the questions that still haunt investigators more than 50 years later. December 20th, 1968. Two teenagers, Betty Lou Jensen and David Faraday, drove to Lake Herman Road, a lover's lane spot outside Vallejo, California. What happened next marked the beginning of a nightmare. Their bodies were discovered on the roadside. David shot in the head at close range. Betty Lou shot 5 times in the back as she tried to flee. The murders shocked the small community. At first, police believed it was just another tragic crime of passion. But they were wrong. This was only the beginning. 6 months later, July 4th, 1969, Darlene Ferrin and Mike Mageau sat in a parked car at Blue Rock Springs Park. Just before midnight, a man approached, shining a flashlight into their faces, then opened fire with a 9mm pistol. Darlene was killed instantly. Mike, though badly wounded, survived and gave police their first description of the attacker. A heavy-set man, 25 to 30 years old, about 5 feet 8 inches tall, with short brown hair. It was this attack that would give birth to the legend of the Zodiac. On July 31st, 1969, 3 newspapers, the San Francisco Chronicle, the San Francisco Examiner, and the Vallejo Times-Herald, each received nearly identical letters. Each one began the same way. "This is the Zodiac speaking." Inside were chilling details only the killer could have known. Proof he was responsible for both attacks. But he didn't stop there. Each letter contained a piece of a 408-symbol cipher. The Zodiac demanded that all 3 papers publish the ciphers on their front pages, or more people would die. Within days, a schoolteacher and his wife cracked the code. The message read, "I like killing people because it is so much fun. It is more fun than killing wild game in the forest. Man is the most dangerous animal of all." There was no name, no identity, just a manifesto of bloodlust. September 27th, 1969, Napa County. College students Brian Hartnell and Cecilia Shepard relaxed on a blanket near Lake Berryessa. A man approached, wearing an executioner-style hood, sunglasses, and a bib emblazoned with a crosshair symbol. He held a gun. He tied them up with pre-cut clothesline rope. Then he stabbed both victims repeatedly with a long knife. Brian miraculously survived. Cecilia did not. Before fleeing, the killer walked up to Brian's car and scrawled a message on the door in black marker. Vallejo, December 20th, 68, July 4th, 69, September 27-69-6:30. By knife. The killer had now switched weapons and made his crimes even more theatrical. October 11th, 1969, San Francisco. At around 10 p.m., Paul Stein, a 29-year-old cab driver, picked up a passenger at the intersection of Mason and Geary Streets. The destination written on his trip sheet was Washington and Maple. But when the taxi reached Washington and Cherry Streets, just a block away, the passenger pulled out a gun and shot Stein in the head. 3 teenagers watching from an upstairs window saw the killer calmly wipe down the cab with a cloth before walking away into the night. Police arrived within minutes. But here's where the case took its most haunting turn. A dispatcher error told officers to be on the lookout for a black male suspect. The teenagers, however, had clearly described a white man. That mistake allowed the killer to slip right past police. Days later, the San Francisco Chronicle received yet another letter. Enclosed was a piece of Paul Stein's bloody shirt. The Zodiac bragged about the murder and warned he would next target school buses full of children. The city was paralyzed with fear. Over the next months, the Zodiac flooded newspapers and police with letters, mocking investigators, claiming more victims, and daring authorities to catch him. One letter included a cipher the Zodiac said would reveal his identity. To this day, it remains unsolved. Another contained a diagram of a bomb, with instructions on how he could blow up a school bus. He also began signing his letters with a circle and crosshair symbol, a mark that would become his calling card. The chilling part? Some letters contained spelling errors, coded phrases, and references to pop culture, as if the killer wanted to project intelligence while also disguising his real education level. Was it an act, or a genuine look into his mind? Over the decades, dozens of suspects have been named, but 3 stand out as the most debated. Arthur Lee Allen, a convicted child molester with a history of violence. He was identified by survivor Mike Mageau as resembling the shooter. Allen owned a Zodiac-style watch with the same crosshair symbol. Police searched his home, finding disturbing items, but no definitive proof. He died in 1992, never charged. Rick Marshall, a movie projectionist who matched the Zodiac's physical description and lived near the crime scenes. Handwriting experts, however, couldn't link him. Lawrence Kane, a man with brain damage from a car accident, allegedly violent toward women, and known to live in the same area as victim Darlene Ferrin. Some believe his police sketch resemblance is uncanny. Yet despite all the circumstantial evidence, none were conclusively tied to the Zodiac crimes. The mystery only deepened. The Zodiac didn't just kill. He wanted to play games. His most famous challenge was the 340-character cipher sent to the Chronicle in November 1969. For 51 years, it went unsolved. Then, in 2020, a team of amateur codebreakers cracked it. The decrypted message read, "I hope you are having lots of fun trying to catch me. I am not afraid of the gas chamber because it will send me to paradise all the sooner." It revealed the Zodiac's arrogance, but again, no name, no identity. The cipher wasn't a confession, it was a performance. And that's what made him different from most killers. He craved an audience. By the early 1970s, confirmed Zodiac attacks seemed to stop, but letters kept arriving. Some claimed responsibility for new murders, like the 1970 disappearance of Nurse Donna Lass in South Lake Tahoe. Her body was never found. Other letters bragged of 37 total victims, far beyond the officially confirmed 5 deaths and 2 survivors. Investigators were split. Did the Zodiac retire, die, or simply change his hunting grounds? Or were some of these later letters written by hoaxers feeding off the fear? Even decades later, law enforcement has never reached a consensus. The case never went cold in the public's imagination. In the early 2000s, advances in DNA testing reignited hope. Forensic teams tested saliva on Zodiac stamps and envelopes. Results were inconclusive. Some investigators claimed partial profiles ruled out suspects like Arthur Lee Allen, but nothing definitive has ever been announced. In 2021, a cold case group called the Case Breakers claimed they had identified the Zodiac as a man named Gary Post, who died in 2018. They pointed to scars on his forehead resembling the Zodiac sketch and alleged hidden evidence from Post's associates. But the FBI quickly responded. The Zodiac case remains open. There is no confirmed suspect. For every new claim, the mystery seems to grow deeper. Over time, the Zodiac became more than a killer. He became a legend. Some theorists believe he was a former military man, trained in cryptography and weapons. Others think he may have been a police officer or someone close to law enforcement, explaining how he evaded capture. There are even claims the Zodiac wasn't a single person at all, but rather a collective or copycats adopting the same symbol and style. Pop culture only magnified the myth. Films, books, and even copycat killers drew from his reign of terror. To this day, online communities pore over his ciphers and handwriting, convinced they can solve the riddle. But perhaps that was Zodiac's greatest success, not the murders themselves, but the power he held over the imagination of an entire nation. Between 1968 and 1969, 5 people were brutally murdered. 2 others survived. Those are the confirmed victims of the Zodiac Killer. But the shadows he cast stretched far beyond his body count. Through his letters, ciphers, and threats, he terrorized millions and etched his name into criminal history as one of America's most infamous unsolved cases. More than 50 years later, his identity remains unknown. Was he Arthur Lee Allen, Rick Marshall, Lawrence Kane, Gary Post, or someone whose name has never surfaced? The truth may be locked in DNA evidence waiting to be decoded, or it may have died with him. And so, the chilling question remains: who was the Zodiac Killer? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to our Trendify channel, where we are the voice of the people. See you in the next shocking true crime video.